Wicked theory suggests Morrible is another The Wizard of Oz character. Even the original 1939 movie didn't include. John M. Chu's blockbuster adaptation of Wicked proved to be one of the most talked about movies of 2024. But one overlooked theory could change Madame Morrible's character if proven to be true. Wicked has already introduced new details to the world of Oz and expanded on the Broadway musical, including through the character of Madame Morrible. Morrible is played by Michelle Yeoh in Wicked, and the award-winning actress performs the character with perfect flair, transitioning her from Elphaba's mentor to her enemy seamlessly. Given that Wicked draws its inspiration from the stage musical, the 1995 book, The Wizard of Oz movie, and the original Oz book series, it is possible that Wicked, for Good could include one specific detail about Madame Morrible that could connect it to a forgotten book detail. Madame Morrible does not appear in The Wizard of Oz, since the character was created by Gregory Maguire for Wicked. However, given that many of Wicked's characters are renamed versions of characters from L. Frank Baum's books, one Wicked theory shows Morrible may actually be present in the original Oz books. Wicked and the Wizard of Oz movies never include the Good Witch of the North from the original book. One detail from L. Frank Baum's original Oz series that has not been present in the majority of modern adaptations is that there are 4 witches in Oz that correspond to each of the cardinal directions. In The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, when Dorothy reaches Oz, there are 2 wicked witches, those of the East and West, and 2 good witches, those of the North and South. However, the books also mention that, prior to the Good Witch ruling the North, she had to overthrow a wicked witch, and Glinda had done the same in the South. This may be slightly confusing to audiences familiar with the 1939 The Wizard of Oz, as Glinda is referred to in the movie as the Good Witch of the North, but her domain was originally Quadling Country in the south of Oz. The 2 good witches were combined, seemingly to simplify the movie's story slightly for viewers. This simplification has largely continued in other adaptations, though the existence of witches in the East, West, and South does seem to imply that a northern witch could also exist. In the original Oz books, it is the Good Witch of the North that greets Dorothy when she first lands in Oz and instructs Dorothy to visit the Wizard of Oz. In the original Oz books, it is the Good Witch of the North that greets Dorothy when she first lands in Oz and instructs Dorothy to visit the Wizard of Oz. She also protects Dorothy from harm by kissing her on the forehead. After the Good Witch of the North sends Dorothy on her way, Glinda is only introduced later in the story to help Dorothy to leave Oz. While Glinda cannot do magic in Wicked, both the witches of the North and South are skilled sorceresses, hinting at what may come in Wicked, for Good. A Wicked theory suggests Madame Morrible is the Good Witch of the North. Knowing that several of Wicked's characters become the Wizard of Oz's players as the origin story progresses, a new Wicked theory from Reddit user BroBiscuit suggests that Madame Morrible might actually be the forgotten Good Witch of the North from the books. The Good Witch of the North does play a significant role in Dorothy's journey in the 1900 book, which hints at how Wicked, for Good may incorporate Dorothy as well. One modern Wizard of Oz adaptation that does actually feature the Good Witch of the North is The Wiz, in which she is given the name Ad April and has the role of greeting Dorothy similarly to the book. The user also highlighted how Glinda the Good is seemingly loyal to the wizard, so it would make sense for another Good Witch to follow the wizard too and guide Dorothy to him. Madame Morrible's role was always a bit strange compared to the other Wicked characters, since she has no counterpart in The Wizard of Oz. Morrible would seemingly be an important character since she is the wizard's right hand and should still be around by the time Dorothy gets to Oz if the movie continues following the timeline of the Broadway musical's second act. What's more, the theory fits perfectly with Wicked's reveal that Madame Morrible's primary power as a witch is changing the weather. While the Good Witch of the North does not necessarily have weather-related powers in L. Frank Baum's books, This addition certainly implies that Morrible is the one responsible for bringing Dorothy to Oz. Using the tornado to bring Dorothy to Oz means that Madame Morrible is able to take out the Wicked Witch of the East while at the same time recruiting Dorothy to help the wizard's cause. Wicked 2 will confirm or debunk the Good Witch of the North theory. Though it is impossible to say right now whether this Wicked theory will prove to be true, Wicked for Good will necessarily reveal whether Madame Morrible becomes the Good Witch of the North. If Wicked for Good keeps the same basic plot as Act 2 of the musical, then Morrible will continue to play a massive role in spreading propaganda about Elphaba being the Wicked Witch of the West and Nessarose being the Wicked Witch of the East. These actions also allow her and the wizard to continue their plans of subjugating the animals. This change could also impact Glinda, as it alters whether she becomes responsible for guiding Dorothy to kill her best friend. A massive reveal like this highlights how dark some of Wicked's themes actually are, with Madame Morrible being at the center of many of the musical's most troubling events. Even if Wicked for Good does not reveal Madame Morrible to be the Good Witch of the North, it would still make sense for her to watch over Dorothy's journey from afar as she attempts to defeat Elphaba. Why Wicked 2 is unlikely to reveal Madame Morrible is the Good Witch of the North. The theory that Madame Morrible might turn out to be the Good Witch of the North is very entertaining, and it actually fits quite well with Wicked's story. However, it seems unlikely that this is the route that Wicked for Good will take. Revealing the Good Witch of the North would change Madame Morrible's ending quite considerably from what happens to her both in the Wicked book, in which she dies, and in the Broadway musical, in which she is imprisoned. Additionally, through her appearances in the books, the Good Witch of the North is characterized as being actually good and attempting to help Ozians who are mistreated, meaning Morrible's personality would immediately clash with the Good Witch character. Instead, it seems like the simplest way to continue the story is through making Glinda the only Good Witch, both to avoid confusion and to maintain similarity to previous versions. But it will be interesting to see what Madame Morrible has planned in Wicked's sequel.